Hello and welcome to a fresh edition of Wednesday Night Football, coming to you from the studios of Ascend TV. My name is Tunde Koiki, thanking you for joining us again. What promises to be another very interesting hour or so of all the major news coming out of world domestic football right here on your TV station. My name is Tunde Koiki once again, and of course I will be doing this show alone. I usually have with me Emmanuel. Emmanuel is in the studio with me. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad
Always
to be here.
good to see you. So much to talk about on the show today, from the domestic to the continental to the global football spheres. But before we do that, we'd like to urge you to please join in the conversation by using our social media handles right there on your screen. You can see them currently on your screen. You can join us. I would like to hear what it is that you're thinking regarding everything that has happened in football and other sporting spheres over the past week or so. Thank you once again for joining us. But of course, we'll be featuring predominantly football on the show today. Well, that's soccer actually, because a lot has been going down all across the world, both domestically, continentally, and globally as well. And we start with interesting piece of news coming out of Lagos, Emmanuel. One of the most iconic structures in Nigeria, a major landmark, and the oldest football stadium in the country, the Onikon Stadium, formerly known as the King George V Stadium, is currently being demolished by the Lagos State government. The plan is to put in a 5,000-seater stadium, which will not have a grass pitch. It'll have an artificial pitch. They're going to make it an ultra-modern facility.
Nice.
That's what they said. You know, in Nigeria, the word ultra-modern is used very loosely, so I'm still a bit skeptical.
But the final product.
Yeah, exactly. But my question really, Emmanuel, is that you are replacing a 15,000-seater stadium with a 5,000 capacity stadium, and also the fact that the sense of history is being lost. It's the stadium itself which I mentioned just a few minutes ago, being the oldest stadium in Nigeria. That history, that legacy is being wiped off the face of the earth forever. What kind of thought process goes into things like this? Because I'm thinking, did the government consider properly what they could have done to the stadium? Maybe they could have refurbished it instead of demolishing it and reconstructing it. What is your impression of this?
Well, I mean, anytime you hear the word demolish, sounds like such a bad thing. But if it's for the sole purpose of rebuilding, and then ultra-modern and all of those nice words that we like to hear. So maybe it's a bittersweet kind of love story here. But I think that at the end of the day, if whatever it is that comes out in the final structure seems to be better than the old one, and but I don't understand the fact that they are reducing the capacity. That for me is a no-no. I mean, anytime you hear of any stadium, it's supposed to be, trying to get it bigger, allow more fans to come and watch the beautiful game and all of that. So I don't understand the fact that they are reducing the capacity. But if they can make it more beautiful, we know that one of the challenges we always have in Nigeria is, managing our, stadiums and all of that. So if it can be better than what it is right now, if we can have, one standard, pitch in Lagos, then I would give them kudos for that.
You say one standard pitch, but as it seems now, of all the pitches that are in Lagos, the only one that is sporting a grass pitch is the National Stadium Surulere, and we all know the deplorable state that stadium is now. So we all know, Emmanuel, that most major it is supposed to be a football facility. Yeah. Most major football games are hosted and played on grass.
Exactly.
So why is the the Lagos State Sports Commission going ahead with having another AstroTurf facility in the city, considering the fact that Lagos is in the tropics? Surely the growing of grass and the maintenance should not be a problem.
Exactly. And I've always wondered, even footballers themselves have always, complained about having to play on such pitches. So I don't understand whoever is making that decision why they would be going for, maybe it looks more beautiful in their eyes.
For example, look at the UEFA Champions League final or UEFA Champions League games played on grass. FIFA World Cup final played on grass. Like I said, most of the major football tournaments are played on grass.
I think we're just looking at aesthetics here, where you just want a beautiful pitch, irrespective of whether it gives quality playing
Football
field
not,
for the footballers. But I think that by and large, it's always good when, for once, government steps in to say, hey, let's spend some money, let's refurbish a football pitch. I don't see anything bad, in that. I think it's good for the government to come in and help the pitches, but then do it in a constructive way, and don't don't leave me the way I am and make me better. Don't try and take me back. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's move away from that and move to another issue that still concerns that concerns Lagos State, actually, because the 2017 ITO Cup final, formerly known as the Federation Cup final, will be played in Lagos in another stadium within the city. It is not the Teslim Balogun Stadium. It is definitely not the Onikon Stadium. It's actually at the Agege Township Stadium. Now, the Agege Township Stadium is probably the smallest facility in the Nigeria Professional Football League. It can only seat just 4,000 people. Extremely tiny. And of course, it's an artificial pitch, which has raised a lot of questions, especially from fans, that for such a glamorous competition, why using such a, nondescript and less glamorous venue for what is Nigeria's oldest cup competition?
Exactly. I don't know if it's just the you can't just resist the temptation of bringing it to Lagos. Maybe you just really wanted to play it in Lagos, but I know that there are better pitches, outside of Lagos. That the Uyo Stadium where the Super Eagles have been playing. Why not? Why not there? Why not at Abuja and all of those places? So it begs the question of whoever is making those decisions. Maybe it's ITO is making those decisions, or maybe it's NFF. I don't know. So whoever is making those decisions, you just have to wonder why it is that they're having to bring it to Lagos.
So, let's talk about the euphoria currently sweeping the country, and the fact that the Super Eagles of Nigeria have qualified for their 6th FIFA World Cup appearance. They're third in a row, doing it in style in a group that was described when the pairings were first made, I think far away in 2016. It was described as the group of death. The Super Eagles of Nigeria, 3-time African champions in their right, were grouped alongside former African champions Zambia, Algeria, and the reigning champions of the Africa Cup of Nations, Cameroon. And this, surprise, against all odds, the Super Eagles emerged top of that group. But considering the fact that the Super Eagles have not qualified for 3 of the last Africa Cup of Nations, it has to go down as an absolutely remarkable achievement.
And not just that they qualified, this is like the first time Nigeria qualified without having to press calculators and do permutations and all of that. I think it's quite a remarkable feat, to have achieved with a new set of players, you must say. This is not the same, faces you would have in Super Eagles, say, in the last 4 years. So it's been remarkable. The whole nation, is still in the euphoria, of that win. It didn't come easy. Zambia weren't just lying down there.
Now you're talking about the last match the Super Eagles played. What a lot of people might not know is that by virtue of qualifying for the FIFA World Cup in 2018, Nigeria has come into a massive windfall, especially that's the Nigerian Football Federation. When I say Nigeria, I mean the Nigerian Football Federation, because as it stands, the Federation is in line to receive nothing less than $24 million just for making it to the FIFA World Cup. They will get $10 million for qualifying. They will get $2 million to prepare the team. They will now get $14 million for playing in the group stage. That is the minimum that they can earn. And if they progress to the second round and even beyond, who knows how much they can come back with. So, and usually in Nigeria, when there is money, there is trouble. So you can imagine that the long lines are out.
Exactly.
But the issue now for me is how do we avoid the fiasco of Brazil, where players virtually almost took up arms against the federation, insisting that they had to be paid out of their largesse. Paid something out of the FIFA largesse we also recall the deplorable scenes in the camp of the Ghana Black Stars, where that country had to fly a private jet to Brazil, also had to hire an armored car to escort cash to the camp of the Black Stars. And we also saw pictures of Ghanaian players counting their money and holding it in bundles. It was absolutely shameful. But how do we avoid these kind of things going into
Well, I think that this will probably be a better managed period, going by what has been happening. I mean, you just mentioned the fact that throughout the qualification process, we didn't hear any rancor about money and all of that. So maybe for the first time, the NFF is doing something right, and maybe all of that won't be a problem, especially when they didn't have money. Now they've qualified, they've done the hard part, and money seems to be maybe not a big deal right now. So maybe they would be able to manage, all of the process properly. I mean, for me, what is even more crucial is all of the preparations.
Just so you know, $24 million is over 7 billion naira. Just so you know.
Okay, I didn't think about it that way.
Just so you know. So over 7 billion.
All right, that can turn anybody.
just so you know, I just said I should just remind you.
Yeah. So maybe that changes my thought pattern. But really, I do think that what is more crucial is that all of the things around, I wouldn't want to hear by the time the World Cup proper comes, and then you begin to hear things like, oh, somebody didn't get a visa, I think that all of those problems would be solved. We can begin to plan way ahead. I mean, we have the money, right?
Yeah.
7 billion naira, right?
Yeah.
Nothing
guaranteed.
Nothing should be a problem this time. I think that we should be able to put our hearts together and do something well. But I am only going by the fact that during the qualification process, it's been almost seamless. So coming from NFF, so I can only give them kudos, and I can only hope that they even do better.
Okay. Well, let's go to the rest of Africa, where qualifiers were also played last weekend. One more round of qualifiers will see 3 other teams emerge as Africa's flag bearers for the FIFA World Cup. I say 3 other teams because Egypt has joined Nigeria as qualifying for the FIFA World Cup for the first time in over a quarter of a century. The last time Egypt were at the FIFA World Cup was in 1990. Before that was in 1934. And in those 2 appearances, they did not win a single game. But for the first time in living memory, in over a generation, they've qualified for the FIFA World Cup. A lot of, if we thought there's euphoria in Nigeria, it's absolute madness and chaos going on in Egypt right now. The president of the country was absolutely pleased. We rewarded each of those players with $85,000 for getting qualification. I also had special mention for Liverpool winger Mohamed Salah, who scored both goals in that game against Congo that gave them a 2-1 win, especially a 95th minute penalty. Keeping your calm in such circumstances, absolutely incredible. So before we leave this part of the show, just to remind you that how high passions run in Africa. One of the Zambian strikers, I think it was Alex Ngonga, we hear that armed men went to his house. They got down from a white SUV and they damaged his house and were threatening to destroy it because they felt he had missed too many chances in the game against Nigeria. Alex Ngonga, thugs went to his house and also threatened the life of I think one of his family members was inside the house, and she said she lost her mind when one of the thugs said he raised the suggestion that they should destroy the house completely because they felt that Alex Ngonga failed to convert any of the chances against Nigeria. Anyway, the police in Zambia have opened a case against the thugs for willful damage to property, and they've also started conducting a manhunt.
It shouldn't come to this. It shouldn't come to this.
Well, it's football. Passions always run high.
Escobar, right?
Yeah, Pablo Escobar.
But it shouldn't come to this.
One of the saddest stories in the history of football. We'll take another short break. We'll be right back with more on Wednesday Night Football. Welcome back. This is the final lap of Wednesday night football, and we'll be looking at the other qualifiers going on across the world, especially in Europe and in South America. Interestingly, we start with Europe because for the first time in the history of the World Cup, the smallest nation ever in terms of population has qualified for the FIFA World Cup. Iceland, with a population of just 335,000 people, which is probably the size of Agege and Ogba in terms of population, have qualified for the FIFA World Cup. It's a remarkable achievement. They did it in a group that consisted of the likes of Turkey, Croatia, and Ukraine. And the mighty Vikings showed just how mighty they were, keeping on the momentum from their brilliant performance in the quarterfinals, when they got to the quarterfinals of Euro 2016. And remarkable for a nation of just 335,000 people. That has to be a major, major achievement. It will go down in the Guinness Book of World Records. Another team that is qualified, of course, is Spain, also doing pretty well. Defending champions Germany with a 100% record, winning every single game. Only the second team to do that, behind the Spanish team of 2009, who subsequently went on to win the World Cup in 2010. Could Germany be giving us an omen of the things to come in Russia? We will see. Let's just say that, let's just remind you some history that Germany has failed in Russia before. If you understand history, you know what I mean. Then, of course, not forgetting the England national team, the Three Lions, also doing the business, qualifying as well for the FIFA World Cup. And interesting thought that I've always had. Do you think that maybe football should introduce the wild card system similar to what you have in tennis, where if, for example, in tennis, if a player doesn't qualify for a competition, he's given a wild card based on his past performances, maybe ATP or WTA rankings.
Who does he join?
So I'm thinking, is it possible that we might have a wild card system where for teams that do not qualify for the FIFA World Cup, some of the star players, some of the great players that we know of that play for these countries.
You're just talking about Messi. Just
no. I'm not talking about Messi. I'm not talking about Messi alone. I'm talking about the likes of Gareth Bale. Oh, okay. I'm talking about the likes of maybe for example, if Senegal don't qualify, maybe a Sadio Mane might be interested in joining the Nigerian national team. For I'm just thinking, is this something that is possible? I mean, it would increase the profile of the FIFA World Cup. It would make it absolutely incredible. And this team and the players might not necessarily join any of the so-called bigger teams in their federation. They can join probably lesser teams.
No.
I'm not saying you have the final answer. I'm just asking, is this something you would like to see?
I don't even understand why there are playoffs. I would like a situation whereby Argentina does not qualify, they should go home. I don't even want to see them qualifying via the playoffs. You know why? Because Argentina will play so bad in the qualifiers and then maybe get there by the playoffs, and then they get into the tournament proper, and they begin to beat everybody. No, I don't want that. You remember what happened to Brazil? Was it 2002? Yep. They barely made it, and then they got into the tournament proper. And nah, I don't even want the playoffs. Talk less of what are you talking about? Wild card. No wild card for anybody. If you can't help your team, go back home and sit down with your team, watch it on TV.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's official that Emmanuel is a Messi hater. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Emmanuel. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
More importantly, thank you for watching. Wednesday Night Football will make a return same time next week. My name is Tunde Koiki, your regular anchor, saying bye-bye.